Peace and greetings. I trust you're healthy and well. My name is Maurice, aka DJ Croc, and welcome to One Nation Daily, day 4, part of a 30-day challenge for me to show up here every day on YouTube and speak to you about a different topic. If you want to know more background and context, then just check out the video from day 1 entitled Heads Up, where I give a bit more of an explanation and context into that. While you're at it, feel free to check out day 2 and day 3. Day 2, I did a review of a conference that I went to recently called Equity in Grief, and day 3 I shared some tips on how to get really good sound quality. Some of the tips that I use to ensure that I get really good sound quality, whether in my professional life or in my personal life. So check those out as well while you're at it. Today I want to talk about choosing a venue for your event and share some tips that I think people need to be aware of or bear in mind when you are choosing a venue for a milestone celebration, such as your wedding or a milestone birthday or something like that. So these are things that there are some things that I notice that couples in particular who are choosing a venue for their wedding often overlook when it comes to choosing the venue. And so I'm always like, people, why is it people don't know this? And I wish more people knew this or was aware of these things. So I'm going to share some of those things here, and please share this video as well, because I want to try and get this information out to the people that need it. All right. So number 1, the main thing that I tell couples or anybody who's trying to hire a venue for any kind of celebration where they're going to have sound system or DJs or what have you, the number 1 thing I tell them to ask, or advise them I should say, to ask the venue when you're inquiring about booking a venue is, do you have sound limitation equipment installed at this venue, and will it be on for my event? Number 1 question I advise people to ask, and this is the number 1 question that people do not ask when they are inquiring to venues about booking them. Do you have sound limitation equipment installed at the venue, and will it be on in the room that I will be in potentially for my function or for our function? Number 1 question I advise people to ask. What is sound limitation equipment? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's equipment that limits the sound, the volume of the sound in the room. How does it work? Usually, the most common way in which it works is there will be a box on the wall about so big, and that has the sound limitation equipment installed in it. That box will be connected to a socket, a plug socket, power socket beneath it, or maybe even somewhere else. All right, but it will be connected to a power socket that the sound system will have to be plugged into, whether it's the venue's sound or whether you have brought or hired in your own sound. It would need to be plugged into that socket that is connected to the sound limitation box. And then also connected to that box will be a decibel meter, which monitors the volume level in the room. So how it works: if the volume in the room goes above a certain level, the decibel meter will pick it up, and if it goes above a certain level for 5 seconds or more, then the sound limitation box cuts the power to the socket that it's connected to, the power socket that it's connected to, the same power socket that all the sound system and the DJ equipment is plugged into. It cuts the power to it, just like that. And so what happens is your event or your celebration is immediately plunged into silence. Now, obviously, this can really totally kill the vibe of any celebration that you're having, especially if you're really in party mode, and all of a sudden the sound just cuts out just like that. Nobody likes that in a party or in a celebration of any kind where the music just cuts out like that. And then you have to wait about 5 to 10 seconds for the power to kick back in to that socket, and then you might have to wait a few more seconds for the equipment to power up, the amplifiers or whatever else is connected to it to power up before the music can start to be played again. This happening once in your event is bad enough, but when it happens repeatedly, then it can really be jarring and annoying for you and for your guests, and really just damage the vibe in your celebration. So that's what sound limitation equipment is. That's normally what it looks like, and that's usually how it works. Some venues might have something slightly different, where if the volume goes above a certain level, then a really horrible noise is produced through the speakers that is so horrible it just forces you to bring the levels down just to get rid of that horrible sound that is coming through the speakers. But the most common way is by killing the power to the socket that the sound system and DJ equipment is plugged into if the volume goes above a certain level for 5 seconds or more. That's the most common one and the most common way it works. So very important to ask these questions, because this can make a huge difference to your celebration, whether it's your wedding reception or your birthday or someone's funeral celebration, what have you, anything can make a huge difference. And yeah, it can be disastrous for your event. So that's why it's the number one question that I advise people to ask, and it's the main question that people don't ask, because most people that I speak to or who reach out to me to book me for a venue to bring sound or to DJ are not even aware of what sound limitation equipment is. They don't even know about it. So usually when I tell people, they're like, I had no idea of this, I never heard of this, I never knew. Oh, thank you for telling me, I'll go and check it out. Most people don't seem to know about it. So that's why I'm really keen to get it out there. So first question, number one question, do you have sound limitation equipment, and will it be on when for my event, in the room where I potentially have my event? Now, I did a venue, I did a sound system hire for an event recently at a golf course. Now, when I got there, I noticed that they had one of these sound limitation boxes in the room where I was setting up. Now, I got there really early, before anyone else. There was only the manager of the venue that was there before me. But I noticed when I was setting up that this sound limitation box was there. So I neatly went and positioned myself somewhere else away from that box, and I made sure I didn't plug anything into it. Now, fortunately, the box wasn't switched on. The sound limitation equipment was not switched on. And of course, I did not go and draw any attention to the fact that it wasn't switched on. I didn't mention this to the manager or anybody else. I wasn't trying to draw any attention to the fact that it's switched off. Although I did make the person who had booked me aware that it was there when they turned up later on and said, look, if they force us to plug into that, it's going to be a potential problem. But I just kept it quiet, and fortunately the event went ahead without being plugged into that socket. And that's a cheat code. That brings me on to a cheat code for these things, which is, if you want to avoid it, you can just try and discreetly plug your equipment via an extension lead or something else, usually via a long extension lead, and running into a different socket that is not connected to the sound limiter. All right, if you do that, then if the volume goes over a certain level and it cuts the power to that socket, it doesn't matter, because none of your equipment is plugged into it. So that's a cheat code. Try not to plug any of your equipment into that socket unless the venue is really switched on, they're really on the ball with those kind of things, and they insist you have to plug into that socket. And some of them are like that because some of them have license issues. Some of them might have issues with neighbors complaining about noise, and no event manager or owner wants to risk losing their license or anything like that. So some venues may insist that you plug your equipment into one of those sockets, but if you can get away with it, try not having the sound equipment plugged into one of those sockets if a venue does have that. I always ask people who book me to DJ and provide sound equipment whether or not the venue has sound limitation equipment. If I am being booked to DJ and provide my own sound, provide sound system, I always ask, does the venue have sound limitation equipment? And the reason I ask is because I can advise the client of the potential problems that this is going to cause for their event if they have this equipment, and give them a heads up. And with that information, they may choose to relocate to a different venue that doesn't have that equipment installed and just eliminates the potential for that problem. Another reason why I make sure I find that out if I'm going to be providing sound system and it's me DJing, or any of the One Nation family DJing, is because it informs my decision or our decision on what speakers to bring. Now, I've played at venues before that have sound limitation equipment in them, and some of them are quite sensitive and force you to keep the sound really, really low, like ridiculously low, to the point where you can hear people speaking over the music, which is really not cool. But I bought sound that was way too big and too much for this one venue because it had sound limitation equipment. So if a venue has that, there's no point in me, say for example, bringing my biggest set or my biggest speakers, because they're not going to get turned up much at all if the room or the venue has sound limitation equipment installed. And then I might say to the client, well, look, there's no point in me bringing this sound or you booking this sound, because this venue and this room has sound limitation equipment. We're not going to be able to play it very loud, because we're going to be tripping that decibel meter every 5 minutes, or the music's going to have to be played really, really low. So it's a very important question that we always ask when we're engaging with clients who want us to bring our sound system. And it's definitely the number one question I advise people to ask when they are scouting venues in which to have their wedding or whatever milestone celebration that they're planning. So ask about sound limitation equipment at the venue. The next one is, I would always advise people to not compromise on your vision for your event. All right. And what I mean by that is, if you are planning your wedding, your milestone birthday, or you're planning a funeral reception or whatever it is, then usually you will have some kind of vision of what you want that event to look like or how you want it to go. And so you would present that, you would go and liaise with the venue or discuss hiring a venue with that in mind. Now, some venue owners or managers will be really passionate about working with you to realize your vision. Other venue owners or managers will not be so accommodating, and some of them might even try and force you to do what they want rather than what you want. A common example that I've encountered is, or some of the couples that I've worked with have encountered, is that when they approach a venue, the venue will insist or try to insist that whoever's booking the space has to use their equipment, their DJ equipment, their lights, their whatever. And the person who is booking the space might not want to use their DJ or their sound system. They might want to bring their own. But some venues try and insist that you can't do that. You must use their DJ, you must use their equipment, etc., etc. And I'm here to say to you that you don't. You don't have to use their anything. If you are dealing with a venue or venue owner, manager, who's not willing to work with you on your vision or is not accommodating what you want for your celebration, then simply keep it moving and go and find a venue and venue manager that will, because there are plenty of venues out there that will be willing to accommodate your wishes and be willing to help you realize your vision for your event. Remembering it is your event and your celebration. You are the one that's booking the space for your thing. It's not your responsibility to try and accommodate the venue and their vision for your event. It's the other way around. They are supposed to be trying to work with you and help you to realize your vision and accommodate you for your event and your celebration. So if you find yourself dealing with a venue that is trying to insist you have to use their stuff, you have to use their people, and you don't want that, just thank them for their time and go and find a venue that will work with you, because I guarantee you there will be plenty of venues out there who will be more than willing to accommodate what you want, and then you can go and get your event and make it happen in exactly the way you envisage it over there. So don't compromise on whatever you want or whatever your vision is for your event if you're dealing with a venue that's not prepared to accommodate you. And in terms of events that are going to be playing black music in particular, I see that a lot. I see that where, in fact, promoters deal with this a lot as well, with venues that or promoters that don't want to have black music events on for whatever prejudicial reasons are going on in their heads. And some people think that you bringing your black people bringing their own equipment means they're going to bring a whole Saxon sound type situation into the place, and it's going to be mayhem and windows rattling and all of that. And it's not necessarily about volume of sound. With us, the priority is the quality of the sound, not necessarily the volume of the sound. So I see this a lot, particularly with black couples or events that will be playing black music. So again, my advice is don't compromise. I don't compromise when it comes to putting on my events. If I'm dealing with a venue that won't accommodate my wishes or needs to have the music sound a certain way for my guests or for my people, then I go to a different venue. I'll leave it there with that one. So don't compromise on your vision for your event. Just find someone who will work with you and help you to create your vision, realize your vision for your event. The next one is to be clear on what the curfew times are for the venue. This is different from the time that your event needs to end. These are two different times. And too often I see people confusing or conflating these times. The curfew time is the time that you and everybody else needs to be out of the building. Okay? It needs to be out of the space. So, if the curfew time for a venue is, say, 12 o'clock, midnight, there is no point telling your DJ and all of your guests that the event ends at midnight, because of course it can't, obviously. So if the curfew time is midnight, everybody's got to be out by midnight, then your event, and you need to tell your DJ, sound provider, and the other providers, your photo booth person, and all of your guests that the event is going to end anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes prior to the curfew time. In fact, I would further recommend that you speak to your sound system provider or your photo booth provider or whoever is providing services at your event, and find out from them how long it will take them to pack down their equipment and exit the venue. Because if the sound provider takes 45 minutes to pack down the sound and clear the venue, then there's no point in giving them 30 minutes. There's no point in saying, okay, we'll play until 11:30 if they take 45 minutes to an hour to pack down and be out. I mean, they shouldn't take that long. Half an hour is a good time. Half an hour to 45 minutes is a good time to be able to pack down the sound and be out, depending on how much equipment is being used. But the point is to be clear on what the curfew time is and work back from that in terms of deciding what time your event needs to end, in order to give whatever service providers you've enlisted time to pack down their equipment and be clear of the venue by the curfew time. All right, so be clear on what the curfew time is, work back from that in deciding what time your event needs to end. The other one is, if you are going to use a venue's sound system, all right, they have a sound system and you are going to use their sound system, be sure that you go and listen to that sound yourself. All right. Don't just take the venue's word for it, or don't just go on the blurb that's written on the website, the venue's website, that we have equipment and it's very, very good. And don't just go on the pictures of people dancing and whatever that they might show on the website. You should go to the venue and listen to that sound yourself with your own ears. All right. And you should take your music, or the music that you intend to hear and have played at your event. That's the music that you should take to play on that sound and do a sound check and listen to that sound system. All right. There's no point you going to a venue to listen to a sound system and hearing them playing some acoustic stuff or some country or some pop music or whatever, if you know at your event you're going to be playing roots reggae or drum and bass or what have you. Do you know what I mean? So go and listen to the sound system yourself. If you're going to use a venue's sound system, make sure you listen to it first. You don't want to turn up at your event on the night and find that the sound is rubbish, or it's really, really low, or it's just not up to scratch. It's not up to standard. Don't do that to yourself. Go and listen to the sound in advance and make sure that you're happy with that sound system, and make sure you take the music that you want to be played at your event to listen to that sound system. Make sure that's what you check it out with. All right. And as I said before, if you're not happy with the sound, don't compromise. Have a discussion about bringing in your own sound, or getting the DJs to bring in their equipment or their speakers or what have you, if you're not happy with it. All right. But make sure you go and listen to their set for yourself if you're going to use a venue's sound system. The next one is when you are doing, I guess this one is more for, well, this is for a lot of people, not just people planning their weddings. If you are doing, or when you are doing floor planning, you're doing the floor plan of where everyone's going to sit and where tables are going to be for a seated event or a seated part of an event. Please bear in mind, or include in your thoughts and planning, where the DJ is also going to be placed and where the speakers are going to be placed as well. This is something that I notice is overlooked a lot when people are doing floor plans for events. All they're thinking about is, where's this table going to be? Where's the head table going to be? Where's auntie such and cousin such going to sit? Where's this section of the family going to go, etc., etc.? And usually nobody thinks about where's the DJ going to go? Where's the DJ equipment or the sound system going to go? Where are the speakers going to go? These things are usually omitted when floor planning is being done, which could obviously cause problems when the DJ turns up or when a sound turns up and there is nowhere suitable for them to put their equipment or set up, or there is not even space for them to set up and put their equipment. Or it can cause other problems whereby speakers are going to have to be placed too close to tables. That means the speakers are going to be right in auntie such and such's ear or what have you. So if you're doing floor planning, please remember to include the placement of the DJ and the DJ's equipment and the placement of the speakers when you are doing that floor plan. All right. And the next one is, if you have an event planner or a wedding planner, to please make sure that that event or wedding planner liaises very closely with whoever is going to be doing your music, or providing your sound, or providing your lighting, or providing your photo booth, or whatever services you're going to have at your event. Please make sure that you have a good event or wedding planner that liaises with all of those people, or the necessary people that they need to. It makes the world of difference as to how smoothly your event runs on the day. And I've had experience of working with good event planners or wedding planners and not so good event or wedding planners. And the main difference is, with the one, you have miscommunication, you have nasty surprises, unnecessary complications on the day, and uncomfortable situations on the day, all because things have not been communicated properly, and people have showed up at a space and people are not clear on where they're meant to be, what's meant to be happening, who's doing what. People are taking leads from different people. For example, I remember one wedding where I was taking my lead. I was being given direction from the groom, and he was being very clear on what he wanted and expected from me at his wedding. Put me in touch with the wedding planner, but I found that the communication with the wedding planner wasn't great. She wasn't very great at responding to me when I reached out to her, which was problematic. And so when I turned up at the wedding reception with my DJ equipment, that was the first time I'd met this woman, and I just walked into a world of problems. First of all, I had nowhere to set up, nowhere to set my equipment up. There was a whole band in the place where I wanted to set up, so there was no space for me to set up. And I'm following the direction I've been given from the groom about the music that he wants to hear at his wedding. The wedding planner wants to do something different, and so I'm caught in the middle of following what the groom's asked me to do and what the wedding planner wants and is trying to get me to do. And there are a lot of miscommunications that happen there, and just unnecessary complications that didn't need to happen. In contrast to that, another wedding that I did where the couple had a really great wedding planner, and she was wonderful, and she liaised with me about everything and anything that even remotely touched the area of music or providing the music. So she liaised with me closely about the floor plan. So I was able to speak about, it's best if I'm here, where are the power sockets? We don't want speakers to be too close to the tables and yada, yada, yada. So we mapped all of that out, and everything and anything that was to do with music, we worked that out together. Where do you need speakers? You need speakers in this space, but we also need speakers there, and we also need speakers elsewhere. That I ended up having to provide speakers in 3 different sections of the venue for different reasons and at different times of the day. So we just worked everything out. And the long and short of it is, when I turned up at that wedding, there were no nasty surprises. There were no unnecessary complications. Everything was clear, and when I got there, everything ran smoothly. That's the main difference. So if you get a wedding planner or an event planner, please make sure that they work closely with whoever's going to be providing your music or your sound or your photo booth or your photography or whatever it is. And make sure you get a good event planner as well. Check their reviews. Whatever you want, whether it's Google reviews or whatever it is, but make sure you get a good event planner, because it makes the world of difference as to how smoothly your event runs on the day. That's it for today's video. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section. If you have any tips that you'd like to add or that you'd like to share, then please drop those in the comment section as well. And I can't believe I'm going to say this like every other YouTuber, but please hit the like button and the subscribe button as well, because it does actually help a lot around here with what I'm trying to do. All right. And please share the video as well. You never know, somebody out there might need to hear something that is in this video. That's it for now. I'll be back tomorrow with another one. Until then, stay blessed. Peace.